Hello, everybody. It's great to have you here. I'm Ghada, the CTO and co-founder at FYELABS. And today we're going to talk about how to turn your ideas into products. Maybe show like a list of virtual hands. How many of you have built something where you were convinced people would love it, only to realize later that they didn't? We at FYELABS work with founders to turn ideas into real products, often under tight timelines, limited resources, and a lot of uncertainty. And one of the biggest mistakes I see is not lack of talent or effort. It's building too much too early based on assumptions. And this is why I wanted to talk today about how to turn ideas into products so that you guys would be able at the end of the talk to be able to move forward and make sure that you're working on the right idea or in the right way. Okay, FYELABS we're like 5 years old, so we've been working with startups for 5 years. We worked with over 200 startups, and I have seen two passes. I've seen founders who come to us and they want to build first and they want to build fast, and that usually does not end in the best result. And I'll give you an example. So one of our customers came to us with a business card app. They were convinced that they have the winning idea, that they have all of the good features. I tried to talk to them into building something simple, but they wanted to build the whole things with all of the bells and the whistles. We spent almost a year. They wanted to show it at CES 2025 last year, and we did that. It was ready by that time, and they published it. But then a year later, we're January 2026 now, and the app is not even on the App Store. And the problem was not with the app. The problem was they were not building what people wanted. The other path is that you spend some time at the beginning where you validate first, right? And then build something that's a bit maybe smaller, maybe not all of the bells and whistles, but that one is going to succeed and skyrocket. Why people do not want to validate first, why not everybody's doing it? Because again, as a founder, you have an idea, you're passionate about it, and you feel like time to market is important. I have to publish, I have to be in the market first. But if you're doing that with the wrong feature, app, idea, that's not going to get you anywhere. So this is why it is important to always take some time and validate first. And even though it might seem like you're wasting time, but not because you're not getting something in the market, it is actually very valuable and very important. And it's not just me, it's not just FYELABS that think that, it's not just me that's saying that. There are studies out there that confirm that. So 90% of startups fail, right? And that's because they sometimes build before they validate. And they did a study on the right-hand side here on 80 plus failed startups. They did interviews. And as you can see, almost more than 50% of it has failed because of lack of product market fit or marketing problems. These are all would have been discovered if they have done a validation before they actually started them building right away. Of course, there are team problems, finance problems, all of that, but these are all very small compared to marketing issues. As I said, the challenge is that founders overbuild without confirming demand, and usually time and money are wasted. So what is the solution? The solution is we build smart, not big, right? We're all founders and we all have lots of ideas, right? Think about it. How many times you always have more ideas than you have time, money, or engineers. So founders tend to want to build big and complete, but that's not usually the smart way of building. So you need to validate before you code. So what does validation really mean? Validation means like you need to find a problem solution fit. I have seen a lot of founders with technology, right? And a very cool technology, but not a problem that they're trying to solve. And usually those founders are trying, when they have a very cool technology, they try and find a problem to solve. And that actually happened to my two partners. So I have two partners, Shobek and Jet. When they were doing their PhD, they came up with a very cool, actually cooling technology. And they were like, oh, this is very nice. how can we use that? And then they said, oh, we're going to use that to cool CPUs. They said, you know what? Data centers, they always have a problem with heating and cooling and all of that. We're going to commercialize our technology and we're going to sell it to data centers. And then they started doing that. And then they found that there isn't no way to commercialization for them, right? They had a cool technology, but they were not solving a real problem. Second thing is willingness to pay. Even if you're solving a real problem, people have to be willing to pay. So again, when I was a McMaster, the dean once told me that the path to a good startup is to find that pain, right? Someone who has a pain and they're willing to pay for that pain to go away. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you create a device that you wear on your head to treat headaches. And you go to people and say, hey, this is a cool device that you can wear, costs $500 and it will treat your headache. People will be like, why would I pay this money for that? I can take an Advil, which is much cheaper, right? So you always have to think, people are willing to pay for this or not, right? Validation is not about asking, is this cool? It's about asking what breaks if it doesn't exist, right? What pain is going to still be there if this solution does not exist. And then next is scalable demand, right? So let's say back to the headache idea, you thought, okay, headache people are not going to pay. You know what? I'm going to sell it to people who have migraines. Those, for example, their medication doesn't work as fast. They are in pain for a longer period of time. So they might be willing to pay $500 for a cool new machine that promises to make them pain-free in a short term in half an hour. But is that demand scalable enough? Is there a market for that? So usually when you're trying to validate something, you should solve one clear user problem. So you do not try and validate multiple hypotheses together. You pick one and you try to solve that one problem, right? So it has to be very concentrated. And you need to talk to real users early. And the way you talk to them is very important. If, again, the migraine or the headache or the pain mitigation hardware, so I should not go to somebody and say, hey, I have an idea of creating a device that you wear on your head and it would make your headache go away in 5 minutes. If you ask it in that way, people would agree to you because you're saying it's your idea, right? So people would be, yeah, that's a very nice idea. So would you be willing to pay for my idea if I build it? And it would be like, yeah, sure, I would. This is not the right way of talking to people. You should talk in a way where you make people not have to agree with you because they're trying to be agreeable and nice and friendly. So maybe tell them, oh, you know what? I saw a post or a reel or a device out there that people would use to be pain-free from headaches in 5 minutes. And then they might be willing to say, oh, but why would people do that? Can just take an ad. Now you can have more engaging discussions, right? So how you talk to people is very important. You have to make sure that you're not priming them to agree with you. And then after you talk with people, you need to iterate and iterate fast, right? And often. So again, you start with the headache idea, you talk to people saying, no, I'm not willing to pay $500. I'm just going to take an Advil and wait for half an hour until it works. And then I'm pain-free from my headache. So you say, okay, maybe the headache people are not my people. Maybe I go to the migraine people, right? They have a bigger issue, a bigger pain. Maybe they're willing to pay for it. You just keep on iterating and iterating fast and often, okay? Okay, so how do we validate and how do we build in 2026? In 2026, a lot of things have changed. AI has been introduced. We have lots of products. We have lots of ideas out there. So how to validate and make sure that we're different? So it really depends on where you are and what you're doing and what are your constraints. So the validation framework is usually divided into 3. So riskiest assumption test, whether the boss prototype and the concierge MVP. So what is that? So again, riskiest assumption test is that you assume that people who have headaches are going to pay for that $500 hardware, right? So the cheapest and easiest thing you can do is that you create, for example, a landing page that tests that assumption, right? That says a Google ad, a Facebook ad, an Instagram ad that says, hey, if you want to be pain-free from your headache in 5 minutes, be on a waiting list for that hardware. So a landing page was a button or a wait list and see if people are going to sign up to it. I know somebody in our community here, a couple of years ago, he created a pickleball. A landing page was a button for a pickleball club, right? The dude did not have a location, did not build the club, did not do anything. He just created a landing page and joined the wait list to be the first to know about when the club is going to open up, right? And within a week, he had 3,000 people on a wait list, right? He took that wait list, went to investor and said, hey, there is demand for this. And now he was able to start working on that project. So again, very easy, very low barrier. The Wizard of Oz prototype is a product validation technique where users believe that they're interacting with a fully functional system, but in reality, a human is manually performing the logic behind the scenes. And again, people use that so that they can prove that there is need in the market and people are willing to pay. So for example, we had a customer where they took care of scheduling for manufacturers, right? So a manufacturer have a lot of equipment on the floor, and this equipment needed to be scheduled, and they want to schedule it in a way so that the floor can still operate with the equipment out of commission, right? So our customer was a service provider. They would pay him, and they would look at the equipment, and they would come up with a schedule and give it back for their customers. So what we want with the Wizard of Oz, we want to test the product behavior, right? And we wanna test it before we're able to automate it, right? And in that case, customer did not know, or the manufacturing facility did not know that our customer was doing it manually, right? They just sent him the requirements, sent them what they need to be done. He did it and then give it back to them. So they didn't really know that it was a manual labor, right? They just gave them the input, so the output, and they were happy with it. And then once, because it's manual, it's not scalable. But once our customer proved that there is value in what they're doing, they came to us, and then we built like a scheduling algorithm for them that would be able to allow them to do that in an automated way, and then they're able to scale. And then there's the concierge MVP. It is when you're still learning the problem, you're still learning what people are interested in. So you want to be able to switch and move fast. In that, the user knows that it's manual. So another customer of ours is actually a psychologist. And she was very interested in how toxic are gaming online groups, right? So for example, if you're a YouTuber or Reddit or something like that, and then you post a video about an online game or something like that, and then people would be commenting and interacting with that video. And she was interested in knowing if this community is toxic or not. So again, she created a service where you as a YouTuber would send her your video links, and she would sit with a group of people and they would do the analysis and send you a report. She wanted to learn what reports are people interested in, right? What matrix are they interested in? How do they want the report to look like? Should she send it back in the PDF? What information they wanted in a report? So it's very like high touch points. The customer knows that it is manual, and they're giving you their feedback. You're improving on your process as you're working with your customers. Again, once she finalized what would be the best way, she was using a lot of AI prompting to analyze the environment. So she figured out what prompts she's interested in. She figured out what she wants the report to look like. And then after that, she was able to commercialize that and build something that she can actually automate and people can use directly on her website without her own involvement in it. So these are all quick validation frameworks. And then we have the normal minimum viable product, right? We've all heard about that before, an MVP. An MVP is usually very good when you understand the industry that you're building an MVP for. So Another example, we had a customer who was working in like, used to work in nursing homes, right? And she was able to identify a gap in that area where she said general managers of those buildings usually have tons of things to do, right? But there is nothing that tells them what to do, and especially they're all compliance. So there's a lot of repetition, right? Elevator safety, kitchen health, things like that, and they have to happen on a certain frequency, right? Monthly, quarterly, yearly. And if they got audited and things are not done properly, they get a fine. Okay, so it's important, but up till 2024, when we worked with her, there was nothing that helps those general managers or executive directors to manage these to-do lists, right? So she created a tool, it's actually called when to do something, where all that it did, the MVP, was upload an Excel sheet of what needs to be done, on what cadence it needs to be done. And there's a nice looking platform that when an executive director logs in, it says, hey, Ghada, today you need to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next week, you're going to need to do 1, 2, 5, and 6. And then she built that MVP, and she really knew what was the need. She knew who were the big players. And and she was bootstrapped. So she came to us, very small budget, build an MVP quickly that showed what she's targeting. She was able to take that back to people that she knew would be interested in something like that, showed it to them, they really liked it, got a couple of beta users, got more money, came to us again, and then we were able to build a product. So MVP usually works with a scenario like that. And then nowadays there's a minimum viable experience, right? So in the age of AI nowadays, where there are lots of different chatbots everywhere, right? So again, another customer who wanted to build a different experience. So in minimum viable experience, you build the whole thing end to end, right? You concentrate on one aspect, but you build the whole thing. So our customer wanted to build like a digital twin for a doctor. So what we did with her is that we trained that doctor really well in one disease. So it wasn't like your family doctor that can do multiple diseases. We did one disease, right? But we did the whole journey where you create the SOAP notes, if there's escalation to call 911, things like that. So that when she took the product and showed it to people, would see the whole experience end to end. It was really nice. It answers flawlessly regarding only that, just one disease, right? And again, now she will be able to prove that there is need for what she is building. Another one, different but similar, is the minimum awesome component. So minimum awesome component is important when you're going into a crowded market. So again, nowadays, lots of different products are similar to each other, but different in small ways. So if you're doing something like that, you're entering a crowded market, you would go for a minimum awesome component. So another example, we have a customer who's building a child tracker, right? So think about it like an AirTag for kids. Lots of different trackers in the market, right? But all of them you have to put in a backpack, you have to put in a pocket or something like that. So what she did, or her idea that we did for her, was that the tracker she's building had a clip. So you can clip it on your kid's clothing. You can clip it at the back of the clothing, right? And then your kid would run, play with it. And that was the minimum awesome component that she worked on, the clip, right? Proved, again, went to shows and things like that, showed that to different people, created a waiting list. People loved that, wanted to be on it, and then moved on to the next. And then there is the minimum lovable product. So again, if you're going into a crowded market, you cannot build something mediocre, an MVP. Sometimes you need to go build the whole thing because there are lots of different options for your users, right? So you need to build something that's truly unique and different and includes everything so people do not go to other options that are in the market. So next slide, I compare between the different ones. I try to make
Sorry, Ghada, before you move on,
Sure.
there was a question in the chat.
Sure.
Do you use prototyping tools, for example, Lovable.ai or Cloud, etc.? What if you already have a prototype using an AI tool that is interactive reference of what to test or build?
So I'll answer that in a minute. I'll talk about using tools and what tools to use when. So I'll answer that in a minute. If it still does not answer the question, we'll come back to it, okay? Okay, so I tried to simplify it in a slide that says when to use what. Use an MVP when you want to focus on product features. So the question is, can we build something minimal? Can we build something small to prove the functionality and show the features and then expand on it later? Minimum viable experience is concentrating on user outcome, right? Can the user experience the value of it? As I said, the digital twin that answers one disease. Can the user experience the value of having something like that? The first thing that people will say, what is the difference between this and chat? Right? ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. So this is why you need to build an experience to make sure that people can value the experience. Minimum awesome component is that where you focus on one feature, right? One stand-up feature, one thing that people are going to love, right? Is there one component that truly impresses or differentiates? Is the clip really going to make a difference? Are parents really going to care about the clip compared to putting a tracker in a backpack or in a pocket or something like that? So you really concentrate on that, prove it first, and then go on and build other components. Wizard of Oz, again, automation illusion, right? Is the automation worth building, right? Is the scheduling algorithm worth spending time to build? Or no, it's not really, people are not willing to do that or wanting to pay for that. Or you know what, we don't really need the automation. It's very simple to do. And then the concierge MVP is a problem painful enough for people to pay for, right? So again, in this, you're trying to understand the problem better. So you're trying to get people and try and do it manually and get to pivot as you're moving forward with your customers. Okay, I wanted to do an exercise. So I used to be a teacher. I mean, like a instructor at McMaster and actually at Waterloo University. I wanted to do a quick exercise where I have 3 different scenarios, and I want you to take a minute to think of what path would you take for each one of them. So the first one is a bootstrapped founder. You have just an idea, no money, and you want to validate before you run out of cash. So out of your risk assessment test, Wizard of Oz, concierge MVP, building an actual MVP, minimum viable experience, MVE, minimum awesome component, so on and so forth. Right? Which minimum, and I call it choose right minimum, which minimum would you choose for that one? And then if you're an AI disruptor, now that everybody's trying to do something with AI, if you're building a complex agent in a new space, technical risk is high, what would you do? And then if you're a red ocean entrant, right? You're entering a crowded market. Again, what would you do? So I'll give you guys a minute, maybe jot down your ideas on what do you think the next path would be for each one of them, and then I'll show you what I think. And again, it's not one correct solution. There are multiple correct solutions for each of those. So do not like spend a lot of time trying to figure just the one. Actually, can use multiple for each one of them.
And feel free to add ideas in the chat if there's anything you want to talk about in specific.
Yes.
Michael was saying that he loves the minimum awesome component.
Yes.
I do too. That's very FYELABS.
Yeah. All right. I hope this is enough time for you guys to think of what we could do. All right. So for the bootstrap founder, the easiest thing to do is the riskiest assessment test, right? Validate demand with ads, a landing page, a button, and see if people are going to join the waiting list, right? For an app idea, for a hardware idea, as I told you, a pickleball club idea, whatever it is. Or you can do a concierge. So the idea that you have, deliver it manually to your customers and get money, and then use that money to automate it, right? Or improve on it, okay? Or an MVP. So again, if you really know the industry that you're targeting, if you really know their pain point, if you really know that they're willing to pay for that, like the Wento example I gave to you guys, and actually Wento was a community tech member, then go ahead and build your MVP right away. Okay? Why are we doing that? Because you're a bootstrap founder. You can't afford to build something nobody wants. You want to build the right thing from the beginning. An AI disruptor, technical risk is high, right? So first thing you can do is that test if the output is useful without spending time on building the model, right? Like the scheduler, right? Make sure that people are willing to pay for a scheduling algorithm before building the algorithm, because building a scheduling algorithm is hard, right? It's not easy and takes time and money. So first do it manually and confirm that people are interested in the result. You can do an MVE, as I said, the experience is important because we'll be honest, people do not trust AI till today, especially in healthcare, right? So build a smooth interface so users can use it and trust the AI, and build the whole experience, because there are lots of different chatbots up there. So you need to be able to show the users or your clients that your experience is different. Or your a minimum awesome component, which is the one magic feature, right? Make sure that you're able to build that and that your, again, customers are willing to pay for it. Especially because this is an AI disruptor, so AI requires trust. A buggy MVP restores trust. So if you try to build an MVP that answers each and every disease out there, and it enters something wrong or it's not very specific, then people are not going to use it because it's buggy. But make it perfect for just one, right? So that people will trust it and continue with it. Entering a crowded market. So skip the MVP, right? Because it's a crowded market. There are products out there that's doing what you're trying to do. So an MVP is going to destroy you. Go straight to the minimum awesome component. So you show people this is an awesome component I'm going to have that other devices do not have, like the clip, right? Or go ahead and build a whole product, right? If you have the money, you have better designs, vibes, components, go ahead and do it. And again, that is gonna differentiate you from other people in the market. So an MVP here is not recommended. You already have a good enough solution. You need to be awesome or lovable to switch them, right? Okay, so now to the question that everybody's asking in 2026. Or not to vibe code, or to use AI for coding or not to use AI for coding. I feel that's a question I get asked everywhere I go. There is no good or bad. There is no right or wrong. There are times where vibe coding can work for you, and there are times where real coding is what's going to work for you. So vibe coding would work for you. Okay, so before I go there, vibe coding is when you use AI to write code, right? Using AI prompt, or you're copying code from other, like from ChatGPT or Cloud or anything like that. The good about it is that it's quick to start, right? It very quickly because you don't really need to learn anything. If you're doing real coding, it's very slow to start because there's a lot of things that you need to build. You have to have actual engineers who know how to code if you're not a technical founder. For vibe coding, understanding is often unclear because you did not write the code. AI sometimes skips stuff if you're not really looking into what it's doing, right? For real coding, you have control over everything, so it's clear and deliberate. Usefulness. Vibe coding, as I said, each one of them have its own. Vibe coding is good for prototyping or experimenting, right? You want to build an app that maybe 1-2 users can use. Maybe not all the features are there. Things are going to be buggy and break, but it's good for prototyping, right? If real coding is good for complex and maintainable software. Once you want to scale, you're going to have to use real coding, right? You cannot scale using AI yet. Risk. So vibe coding is high risk, bugs, security issues, no scalability, so on and so forth. Real coding is lower risk when it comes to it's more stable, easier to debug and build on, but of course it's more expensive. So in summary, no-code tools, as you mentioned, Lovable and all of that are great for testing, but rarely for scaling. We have had multiple people who came to us with code that they built using AI, and they come to us and like, okay, I've done what I can do. It's not working. I can't fix it. Make it work. So we've seen that a lot. And why is that? Because AI usually creates messy, unmaintainable code that must be rebuilt later. Can AI not create proper code? It really depends on who's using AI. If you're an experienced technical person and you're using AI to tell it what to look for, what not to look for, and all of that, you might be able to build proper code using AI. But again, you're going to be spending a lot of time debugging and fixing issues because it's code that you have not written. I don't want to get into the debate of AI coding. So it has limited flexibility. So when it comes to integration or handling reusers, again, we haven't seen it there yet. So we have had a couple of things where, okay, I built something with AI, now I needed to integrate with other APIs from other providers. Please come and help us build that. Why is this an issue? Because AI-assisted coding lacks architecture soundness. And this is what I'm saying. If you're a technical founder or if you have technical expertise in using AI, you might be able to use it to build something a bit proper because you have the architecture soundness. You're going to be able to tell it what to do, and more important than what to do, what not to do, right? You're going to be able to look at the code that it created and be able to understand and know what's missing and know how it should have been done, and it's not done in that way. So it's not as easy as build me an app that does 1, 2, 3. Properly engineered MVPs save time and money on the long term, right? So if you have the money to start to build an MVP properly, I would very recommend that because you don't have to throw it away and start from scratch, right? If you don't, then using vibe coding or AI coding is a good start point because you can do that yourself, save the money, and then take that, either convince investors or maybe get a couple of beta clients, or I don't know, crowdfunding. People are willing to pay for it, collect the money, and then build something proper. Okay? So no code and AI assisted tools promise speed, right? But that speed often comes at a cost. As I said, they generate code that's hard to maintain, can't really scale, and often has to be thrown away. Instead of building something and then rebuilding from scratch, if you have the means, then it's smarter to invest in a well-designed MVP so that it can grow with you as your business grows. Okay, does that answer Mike's question?
There was a couple of other questions as well, not exactly about vibe coding.
Sure.
There was one from Thomas. How would you get market feedback if you're worried about companies stealing your ideas?
Oh, okay. That's something I see a lot. So how do you build that idea is different. And that's not something that you're going to put it out there, right? So again, if you want to build a pickleball club, sure, you can have hundreds of people who are trying to build it, but how are you going to build it? How is it going to look like? What is the location? There's lots of different details that you don't have to tell people about, and you can still gather their feedback or make sure that there is a fit. Again, the hypothetical example I gave about the device that you put in your head to make your headache go away in 5 minutes. It's an idea, but how do you do that? What technology do you use? What is the design? Again, there are lots of different details that people might know the idea, but they're not going to be able to know the details. In this day and time, I always say, any idea you have, somebody has thought about it before. When somebody comes with an idea that's totally out of the box, we usually ask ourselves, why is it not there in the market? Is it because it's too hard to build, or is it because nobody wants it? I do believe that any idea you come up with, there's probably somebody else who's thinking about it. So that should not hold you back, especially if you're not within the industry and you're sure that people want it and people are going to pay for it. It is always better to validate before you build something huge.
I think Arun already had his questions answered, but how do you build trust via prototypes if the offering is an app or service where keeping sensitive information or user information of the app is paramount?
Okay, that is.
There we go.
Yeah, so we work with a lot of like health apps, right? And you build trust by making sure that the apps that you build follow all of the compliances and certificates that are required. So it's HIPAA compliant, HIPAA, PIPA, all of that, SOC 2 compliant. So when you're So when you're building a prototype, you can start by working with mock data, right? Not actual data. For example, for the digital twin doctor prototype that we built, people knew, like you're giving it to people and you're showing it to people who know that it's a prototype. They know we're not saving anything on our backend, and if we're saving, we're maybe saving summaries. So you're forward about that, right? We're saving summaries, maybe include encryption. It really depends what you're trying to build. We have done a lot of products. We have done a product which collects sleep information for kids who are autistic because they always have problems sleeping. Actually, that product has infrared cameras and all of that. And our customer came to us, we built the hardware, we built the software. She was able to get a group of people who were like, yes, willing to give us the data to clinics to do research on it and use the device. And then we were not gathering anything, like we're not saving any of the data, gathering anything to identify. And she got the legal between her and the people, and then they were able to take it for a couple and then use that. They were able to get now to do it HIPAA, PIPA, encryption, all that stuff, and then now take it into an actual clinic that would do actual patients, right? It really depends on what you're trying to build. You have to be clear. You have to know what needs to be, you have first you have to identify and know as a founder, right? Or as a company, what needs to be done. And then you have to tackle each one of them, right? If it's identification data, how do I not do identification data? For example, things that have a credit card, you don't want to save credit card information. So a lot of us use Stripe and things similar to that. So you're not saving it, it's being saved on Stripe, and they have to do all of the compliances. So you don't have that in your app, so on and so forth. Hopefully that answered the questions.
And if anyone has any more questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll answer them periodically.
Perfect. Okay. I wanted to say that strategy is not a template, right? What I talked about today is a couple of examples. It's not a solution fits all or one size fits all, right? As you have seen, different challenges, time or constraints, time, money, competitors, okay, are gonna make you validate and start in different ways. The important thing is you need to validate fast. Okay, and then if you want to build to scale, you need to use modular and reusable code. So if you're using AI coding or any of the tools out there, or no code or low code, be okay with the idea that you're probably going to have to throw it out once we want to scale and rebuild from scratch. Okay, you need to test assumptions while keeping your technical integrity. Okay, and partner experienced engineers to build it right, not twice. Either hire own engineers if you can, see a technical co-founder who's gonna work with you. So even if you're using AI tools, you make sure that you're using AI tools in a proper way. So you're building it right from the beginning. And then what I want to end with is that I want to give an example, end-to-end example about one of our customers. So here it says when to bring in experts, right? So when tech limits your growth, so you have built an app using AI, you're trying to add features and they're breaking, you can't really do it, or you can only log in 10 people, but once you try and log in 20 people, again, breaking, not technically, you reach your technical limit. So you need to bring in, as I said, hire, outsource, bring in your tech people. You need scalability integrations, probably going to need tech people as well. Or if your MVP shows traction, that means you can get more money and then you're able to hire in the experts. So I wanted to give an example with one of our customers called XR AI Glass, as you can see on the screen. They are successful. So what happened is that I've met the founder in April. They were a group of founders, all very technical, all right now ex-Google, Microsoft, Meta, and all of that. They came to us with the idea that they had a family member or a friend who was hearing impaired, right, or hard of hearing. And it was right after COVID. People were wearing masks, and their friend was having issues because they depend on lip reading, right, to be able to talk with other people. With the mask, they cannot lip read anymore. So they had the idea, like, current day and time, there has to be a technology out there that would help their friend. So I met with them and they said, hey, we want to use AR glasses to display conversation subtitles in real time, right? So if you're hearing impaired, you put on the pair of glasses, you're talking to somebody, you can see subtitles of what they're saying in front of you. Right? They came to us as any other founders with big ideas. We want bubbles coming out of their mouth or beside their head when you're in a group conversation talking to multiple people. It will be a bubble beside every person, so on and so forth. As I said, they were very technical. They were all working at Google, Microsoft, and Meta by the time. We are very technical, but we all sat together on the table and we're like, okay, so how are we going to do that? And we were like, oh, we don't know. Nobody has done that before. Eh? We don't know how are we going to do that. So what we did, we're like, okay, now let's see what is the most technical risk that we have in this product in front of us. And we decided we're going to start not even with an MVP. We're going to start with a proof of concept. So we decided that the technical risk here was the delay, right? If I have my glasses on and the person in front of me is talking and I'm seeing that conversation subtitles 10 seconds later, it's useless. It's garbage. Nobody's going to use it. So we said delay is very important. So we did a phase, which is a couple of weeks, where we got the team to look into how can we build that, what would be the delay. We said, forget the glasses, forget the phone, forget everything. We're going to do it on a laptop, right? Laptop is very like computationally strong, much stronger than a phone. We're going to test a couple of options, right? And pick the option that we think is going to help us move forward. Did that in a couple of weeks and we said, okay, you know what? It looks like it works. Delay is okay. It's working on a laptop. We said, okay, what's our next technical risk? Our next technical risk, again, related to delay, is that because we're going to be integrating with AR glasses, we have to use a certain ecosystem to display. So step one was we had a mic, and from the mic, we were able to get text, right? Sound to text was our first thing. Can we convert sound to text in good delay? So we said, yes, we can. We said, okay, now that we have the text, can we display it in the AR ecosystem still within good delay, right? Again, no glasses, nothing. We got the ecosystem, we got the desktop version of it, put it on a laptop and did it on a laptop. And we're like, yep, okay, seems like it's doable. Seems like technology can help us here. Now let's go and actually build an MVP. What happened is that we took the technical risk out of it in a month. So we started working with them in May. By July, they have a full-blown marketing campaign, okay, using the proof of concept that we did on the laptop, right? Because a marketing campaign, you need videos and you edit videos and all of that, right? So while we were working on, okay, now we have proved the technology works on the laptop. Now let's start moving it to the phone. Let's start integrating with the glasses and all of that and working on an app to get it in the app store. While we're working on that, they use the proof of concept to create the landing page with the join our waitlist, right? So they use that. July, they had, again, their marketing campaign, join the waitlist, the landing page, and then they started having users on the waitlist. November, we had our first app in the App Store. The glasses by then only supported Android, so we had our Android app in the App Store. People started downloading it like crazy. The glasses maker noticed the use case they're using it for. They added support for iOS. By January, we had our iOS version in the Apple Store. By March, they have all left their jobs. They have hired their own technical team. We have done a technology transfer, and then they're now on their own, right? So that was a whole end-to-end project where we did technical de-risk at the beginning. They did the RAT, which is a landing page with a join our waitlist. And then they were able to use that to build an actual collect investment or get money, build the actual app, put it in an app store, and then they continue on growing. I've took that from their website, so that's what they're doing nowadays. They added to it. So now they have like translation. They don't have to be hearing impaired to use it. If you're traveling, you put it on and you have real-time translation when you're talking to somebody in a different language, so on and so forth. So they keep adding features to it. But when we started single user, right? As I said, the proof concept on a laptop, nothing there. Let's try and prove it. They use that to show the use case and try and get people interested and make sure that people are going to join the waitlist. Okay, to recap, validate, build, learn, iterate. Okay, start small, test your big ideas, build properly so you can scale seamlessly if you can. And then for everybody here, you can book a free MVP consultation with us if you want product development, software development, to do software and hardware. So if you want to brainstorm with us, throw us idea, we work with this cost contract, right? So if you have an idea, let's have the free consultation. We'll tell you how much it's going to cost, what time, how much time it's going to take for us to build it for you. If that works for you, good. If it does not work for you, does not work for you, no hard feelings. This is our website, www.phylabs.com. If you put /video channel, you can see testimonials from previous customers, and you can email us at hey@phylabs.com. I think we're going to be sending you the presentation in a PDF format. So the last slide, I have references for everything I've mentioned today. Okay.
Do we have time for a couple of questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right. How to decide if to hire in-house developers or outside developers?
Good question. You eventually want to hire in-house developers because you want to keep your IP and all of that in-house. But outsourcing helps in two cases. Outsourcing helps when you want speed. So the XR glass example I gave to you, as I said, we met in April. We had an app in the App Store in November. So in 6 months, we were able to get something out in the App Store. If they wanted to hire, it would have taken them 6 months to find people, create a team, get them to work together, and start produce something, right? So outsourcing helps with speed because the team is already there, they're already working together, they already have the technical expertise. The other thing where outsourcing works is that if you do not have the expertise that you need in-house. So another example, you are a software for development, you have an app or something like that, and you want to add AI to it, and you don't want to hire an algorithm developer for a couple of months to just put that piece in and leave, right? So you would go outsource, somebody would build it to you and then leave. So I would say this is where it would work for you. And also sometimes it's cheaper to outsource because if you want to replace outsourcing with an internal team, you're going to have to hire multiple people, right? So you're going to have to pay salary for a UI UX designer, a front end, a software architect, a front end developer, a back end developer, a DevOps engineer, right? But when you outsource, we have the whole team, right? Sometimes it's cheaper to outsource than to have your own team.
Another question was, there's two questions about sort of services that FYELABS offers. Do we offer validation services? And similarly, do you do any coding audits? If something is vibe coded, do you offer services to help make it robust or highlight areas of concern?
Yes. So I'm expecting that validation service is the same thing because we have had that as well. Before vibe coding, it was offshore teams. So people would come to us with a product that they sent to an offshore team. And then again, it's not working, or there's an issue, or they're starting to take too long, so on and so forth. So we actually have a name for that internally. We call it the rescue project. So yeah, you would come to us. It really depends on how big is the app or how complicated it is. We can do a 1-week review of the app and let you know what needs to be done or areas of concern or something like that. If it's something small, right? Sometimes it doesn't need a whole week. If it's something much bigger, more complicated, sometimes it needs more than a week. So it really depends on the app. So as I said, you have a free MVP consultation with us. Let's schedule a call. We'll go through it together, and then I'll be able to answer you in more details. Okay, I see. Are there funding opportunities through McMaster Innovation? So we are in the same building as a Forge. We have worked with some of their startups. So again, if you're part of the Forge, you can reach out and we would work with you as well. Like we are not associated with any funding opportunities. Depending on where you are, we can suggest a couple like NRCI Wrap, Obio, things like that, but we are not connected to any funding. Can you ballpark cost for validation? So again, as I said, it really depends on the app, how complicated it is. I would say it would, if we're saying like a week or something, so I would say it would be something around 7K. Again, it really depends on the app. Sometimes actually you do that validation for free. So as part of writing a proposal, right? So it really depends on the app, how complicated it is, what state it is. Sometimes I open it, right, and look through it and like, okay, it's structured nicely. All of the big things are there, so on and so forth. It doesn't take as much. Sometimes I look at it and I'm like, oh man, this is like a spaghetti pile. So that's gonna take some time. As I said, if I have to ballpark it, I would say somewhere between 5 to 7K. But let's have a meeting and I'll be able to give you a better pricing for it. As I said, you are no obligation until I give you a proposal and you sign the dotted line. Before that, there are no obligations. I think I've answered everything, right?
I think so. And for the NDA question, if you want to work with FYELABS, I added the NDA link into the chat if anyone wants to fill that out and have a conversation with us. But you can also just reach out to Ghada at FYELABS.com or hey@FYELABS.com, and one of us team members will definitely get back to you with an answer. If anyone has
Perfect.
any final questions, we're here, but otherwise, drop your emails in the chat so that way we can send you any slides or any more details, and make sure you've registered to the event, and we'll be able to get back to you after this with the slides.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Glad we all liked it.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a good day. See you guys in the next one.
Yay. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Yeah.